Well. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Write Your Narrative, a weekly podcast where we're discussing everything street art related happening in South Florida. I'm your host, Pascal D from Token of the Wall. This week, my guest proudly represents the 305 with his art. His name is DISEM. For over 20 years, DISEM has been painting huge murals of local music and sports legends over his signature graffiti background using Miami's iconic pink and blue color palette. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Write Your Narrative in Jolt Radio in Wynwood with my first guest today. Our first guest is DISEM. He's a well-known graffiti in the Miami art scene. He's been doing quite a lot for quite some time now. So, DISEM, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. I've been following you through the social media, and you've been very, very active in the graffiti world and in Wynwood and in South Florida for how many years now? For about 10, 15 years plus?
Plus. Let's say maybe since like early 2000s.
Early 2000? Wow, that would be, over 20 years. So, right. Born and raised in Miami, guy?
I'm not born and raised. I was born in, which I don't talk much about it. I was born in Venezuela, but I was there for, a matter of like 2 weeks. I don't have family from there or nothing, you know. My mother had me out there because her family was there at the moment. And then we came back here, then to Panama, and then I was back and forth from Panama to Miami for a few years. And then I think I've been here since, like that we stayed since I was like 8 years old. All
right, so very, very young. So
my whole life, yeah.
So you're a Miami boy, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. With everything in it.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
100% repping the city and everything.
Always.
So this is something that with your art, you've been very, very active, and you have something very interesting to me in the art world is you are doing portraits that are absolutely beautiful, and you mix them with your graffiti in the background. Do you have some kind of art training? You took some art classes? You went to some...
Well, I went to public schools the majority of my life. Whenever I had the option to get like the electives, I chose art electives. So I'm a strong supporter of like the public school system in Miami-Dade County. But my parents met at an art university. My mother's an artist. My uncle owns an art university in Panama. My mom was attending the school, and she met my father there because my uncle was the owner of the university, or is the owner of the university. So I was pretty much born into art, into art. Yeah. I remember being a kid running around through the hallways of the university. So yeah, it's just my whole life been around it.
So art has always been present, but from art to graffiti, that's kind of like a big jump.
Not necessarily. To me, graffiti is it's an expression of self, which is art,
Oh, definitely.
Except for the vandalism aspect of it, which at that point, I think as a young kid, or, you have this rebellious side to it, and it just appeals to you. Also, the fact that you don't necessarily have to be good to do it and get credited for it, as long as you're producing large amounts. That's also like a big incentive, I think, when I was younger. But yeah, to me, graffiti is art. It's self-expression. So, from a tag to a whole mural.
Yeah, definitely.
There's people that don't have to paint a whole mural to be good at what they do, I see tags that are better than huge walls. So there's a balance in it.
Oh, for sure. Especially here in Miami, in the Wynwood district. We have tons of graffiti, tons of beautiful, beautiful murals. And really, some graffiti are absolutely breathtaking. There's a whole lot of a technique behind it. There's a whole lot of colors, especially down here in South Florida. The art scene is pretty colorful, which is really sweet to see. So talking about murals, there's one specific mural that I would love to talk about. This is the big mural you have on 2nd Avenue.
Oh, the baseball mural.
The baseball mural, yes. So how did you come up with those portraits and the background with your graffiti?
Yeah, so as far as that building that piece was commissioned by a baseball player, Escobar. Okay. So he's had a pretty long-running career in the major leagues. He approached me while I was painting under the mural. He said he had a project he had in mind, and he wanted to paint some baseball players on it. So I was like, look, give me a list of, the players that you admire or you want to pay respect to, and then we'll go from there. So I went down the list and I started seeing the different names. And I was like, man, well, first of all, we're in Wynwood. It's got a rich Puerto Rican history, so we got to throw oh man, my mind just went blank. Famous Pirates Puerto Rican player, man.
You got me with this. I am not
Okay.
a sports guy.
The name will come to me. I'm just terrible with names. But we had to pay respect to him, you know, and the whole project was a matter of like the multicultural melting pot in baseball. So, you know, we did Mickey Mantle, Jackie Robinson, Fernandez, who was from Miami, passed away.
Yeah.
And then, oh man, I can't believe I forgot this name. But yeah, famous Puerto Rican player from the Pirates. Everybody that sees this is gonna make fun of me.
Oh, sorry, guys.
But yeah, but everybody knows who it is.
I cannot come to the rescue. I really
Yeah,
cannot.
No, it's cool. So yeah, that was just the beauty and, you know, multiculturalism and baseball. And then as far as the graffiti behind the portrait work, I think when I was younger, I had this like split personality, you know, like not necessarily a split personality, but I had like two conflicting selves, right? Where I always concentrated on the fine art and like the artwork, and I remember like my graffiti friends would like make fun of it. Like I was drawing portraits, self portraits, all sorts of things while I was younger, but at the same time I did graffiti. And then on from like my family side and like all the artist side, you know, they were all like, why are you doing this graffiti stuff when you have this other talent?
Yeah.
So initially I started like my fine art work I would do with my first and last name, and then my graffiti work with like the DISEM, you know, my tag. And then I was just like, man, these two things like coexist within me, and they're so conflicting to these people that from outside, there's no reason why they shouldn't coexist in my work. So I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to force the people that appreciate the fine artwork to look at the graffiti, and the people that appreciate the graffiti to look at the fine artwork. And if it lives within me, there's no reason why I shouldn't live within my work. So at that point, I kind of just meshed the two things. And I think, I mean, I think it reflects a lot of my personality, you know, like I have a rugged side to me, but I also have a very caring, you know, like more well thought out side to me, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, you know, I think that's something that lives in my work, the conflict between like the ruggedness and the pretty stuff, and you know, and I think it's normal. It's something that a lot of us should accept, that we have different sides to us.
The duality,
yeah. Right.
Which is something I really find striking in your work. It's just different than a lot of people.
Thank you.
I really wanted to talk about how you came up with this. I think at first there was maybe a little bit of a photoshopping at first. I saw some pictures of Celia Cruz and your background and Blondie on your Instagram feed.
You know that Celia Cruz one was actually, I did a mural of her, which like a lot of people, that photo doesn't exist. So that was actually me putting together like images of her to try to like portray what I wanted to show. So that mural was painted in a botanica, which, you know, botanicas have a history to like correlate to the religion of Santeria. So I wanted, I don't know if necessarily she was in that religion or not, but I know she sang a lot about it in some of her songs. So I wanted to kind of tie those things together, you know, the cultural religion. And my work's about culture, you know, about representing what Miami is. And Miami is a big melting pot of, you know, religions, cultures, races, and the fact that we could all coexist together, I think is a big part of what's built me and what's built this city. So I try to represent that in my work.
You also, I mean, maybe the fact that you bring some players, some people from the sports world, maybe it makes it a little more attractive to a lot of people on the streets. Like the famous wall that you did also for the Margulies building was quite a special piece with Adonis Aslem.
Thank you. I mean, again, like a big part of it was me representing the city and the culture. And something I would see, there was a handful of artists that, not as many as there are now, but when I started painting the portraits, I would see a lot of people either representing, like, you know, I'd see murals of like Biggie or Tupac or Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, like these very people, like it became very monotonous to me. And it had, even I'm a Biggie fan and a Tupac fan, you know, and even Elvis and Marilyn Monroe, but these people didn't necessarily have a correlation to Miami as far as I know, you know?
Correct.
And I just felt that, like, why is our city not being represented with the people that have built the city? And at that point, I made a conscious effort to try to highlight the people that have grown up in the city, built this city. And and laid down founding blocks for us. Like they've paved the road for us. So that UD mural was very special, especially because of like him being from Miami, going to school in Miami.
Yeah.
What he's done for the team, where he's totally been comfortable being a supportive role, not necessarily the star. I think that's important as well. Like you don't need to be the star, the forefront of anything. Like as long as you're a strong supportive player in any movement,
Yes.
I think you're bringing something to the table. That's sometimes more needed than like the role players, the star players.
Yes, okay, that's pretty cool to bring up.
Thank you.
So what's your big influence in the graffiti world? Do you have someone that you've been following, supporting?
Miami's my influence. As far as graffiti, I think the biggest influence has always been like Miami writers. It's what I saw. I got into graffiti because my older cousin, he used to write Gare, Gare. And then, man, I got around it when I was like, I think 4th grade. So he used to like, my parents would leave me with the family. He used to, he was a young guy. He'd take me to different places to like paint with them. I started meeting his friends. So I got into it really early on. And then just growing up, seeing, if everything from the crews I was in, the people I was around, huge influences. And yeah, and then there's the art aspect of it, which, I have a lot of influences in art as well. That I would say it's not so much more of a Miami influence as far as like the style I paint. That would be more like just I'd say maybe like the Renaissance movement, like the Michelangelos, Raphaels, all those people.
So, do you have any favorite colors that you use usually?
yeah,
Because repping Miami is the pinks, the blues, the turquoise,
pinks and teals, yeah, the pinks and teals.
Yes.
I it's weird. I've always been attracted to pinks, and then teals. It's just such a cool balance. It's funny because when I started putting those like colors together, I could only name one artist that was doing it at the time. And I remember one of the first times I did it, I brought it up to him. I was like, "Hey man, I'm not trying to step on your toes, but he was like, "No, actually the tones you're using are different from my tones, whatever." And then years later, now I go into the paint store and those colors are always out, because they've been so, but obviously influenced by like Miami Vice, Art Deco, colors in South Beach you'd see all over the place. But yeah, and it's funny because even like with the Miami Vice colors, those are very pastel, which, in the 80s, it was like pastel tones.
They were more pastel than
yeah,
now.
when I started using them, I was like, man, I want to use this as an influence, but I want to like bring it to current state. And that's why I went with like the strong magenta and like the teal. And then now it's just like, it's everywhere, which is, it's like the sour side of me is like, oh man, why is everybody using these colors now, But the cool side of it is that like it just means Miami's represented in a strong way, which is beautiful.
We are in Miami. We have to represent Miami the way we can, and this is it. Some colors they speak volume, they speak Miami. So you were talking about the community before and the things that you do with the school system. Sometimes you've been named Community Champion of the Year not so long ago. So this is also something very important. I've noticed a lot of artists that I've been interviewing, a lot of people, a lot of friends. Everybody seems to be very engaged with their own community, with their own stuff. So this is also a big part of you.
Absolutely.
Doing that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, this city built us, So like, why not give back to the city that built us? That's the way I feel about it. I think that was through the Arthur Polly Mays Conservatory of the Arts, which is a amazing, beautiful public art school. I've lived in Miami my whole life. I've been around art my whole life. I wasn't aware of this school. It's down in Goulds, which is an area that I feel doesn't necessarily get the best representation of what it is culturally because it's got a rough history. But I did a project with a friend. My friend's son was a Boy Scout, and he did this project to get his Eagle Scout thing where he completely on his own and his friends, they revamped their band room. So they hit me up to like paint a mural, and I walked in and like I was completely unaware of the school. I saw how amazing the art program was, and I was like, man, forget painting one wall, let's paint the whole school, And then I started contacting my friends, and now I think we got something like nine murals up, and the plan is to get a lot more work up there. Because out here, like in Wynwood, I think there's so much work that the work's unappreciated because it's just it's so saturated.
It is very
But
saturated.
but at a place like down there in Gould's, where like these kids are actually like studying to be the next generation of Miami born and raised artists.
Yep.
This is where it's needed, to kind of like bring some spark into their lives. Like I remember the first graffiti piece I saw in one of my schools, and it was like, the fact that I remember it at this age, after seeing so much graffiti, says a lot about what it is. So if we could help provide that for the next generation, then we're doing something in the right direction.
Yeah, it's also a good thing to know that there's still an art program in the school because, I mean, with the governor, we have a lot of art programs are cut.
I don't want to get into politics.
No, but
but to see that move, to see the funding for a lot of the art programs get cut it's sad.
it is.
I'll tell you personally, I grew up, and a lot of people make fun of this. They say Kendall's not like a rough area or nothing, but the areas where I grew up, like 152nd Avenue, 154 Avenue,
Yeah.
throughout I'm gonna say late 80s to 90s, was a pretty rough area. And I would say a lot of my friends have ended up in prison or in bad situations, and I would credit graffiti, even though it was an illegal thing I was doing at the time. But the artistic aspect of it had kind of steered me in a different direction, where if it wasn't for that, I think I would have ended up in a worse, path. So I definitely think that art is something that steers people in the right direction for the majority of the time.
So, all right. So, talking about graffiti, you are or you were at some point part of the crew. How did you get into a crew in Miami here? It's just like there's so many people, there's so many things. Of course, it probably has to go with your neighborhood, with the friends, or with the...
Yeah, it was that neighborhood friends, and to me, like I've always been very selective as far as like the crews I associated with.
Yeah.
'Cause at the end of the day, especially in those days, you're committing crimes together, so you want to know who to.
Yeah, who's got your back?
And not just that, like who are you willing to take a charge for,
Okay.
like because ultimately, like they'll wrap it all up and throw everybody's charges on one person, and it's on that person to deal with it how they feel right, So I was always very kind of cautious with who I did that with. I always made sure that it came friendship above anything else. So yeah, the majority of the crews I've been in, I consider good, strong friends, even family, which is probably why you haven't seen me push many crews throughout my life. But,
Yeah. But that's I mean, the crew aspect in the graffiti world, it's something very, very strong. You got everybody's back, like you say. You're ready to take a hit in the name of someone for something, and you really, really run together this is a real brotherhood.
And quite literally
aspect.
a hit, There's fights break out, especially in Miami. Miami's one of the most aggressive graffiti scenes I'm aware of. And yeah, fights are, especially back in the days, it was some everyday shit, It happened all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you really got to be selective as to, I think in life in general, you got to be selective as to who your friends are, because they could either, steer you in the right way or the wrong way.
You can only have that many friends in life, really, really close friends. I mean, the brotherhood aspect and all those things are true, very true. So in this wall that we were talking about on 2nd Avenue, on the north side of it, you have like 6 or 8 beautiful graphs. This was part of a crew effort to do this next to those beautiful portraits.
Oh, previously, before
Yes.
the Dolphins wall, yeah, that was a production with SSK, which I was a part of at the time. That was an interesting wall, man, because I think we were like really young and possibly inexperienced when we first started like working on that. Times have changed a lot. Like I remember, I think I was still in high school when we started it. So it was me and a friend, 3. We got a phone call from like somebody else, and they were like, "Hey, look, I got this wall. Come out and paint." Like on a Saturday, we show up to the wall, and we're like, "No, man, we're not gonna paint like just the bottom part. Like let's paint the whole wall."
The whole wall, yes.
Yeah.
So right on 95, I mean, the traffic, that wall was like...
Yeah, and man, that wall gave us that wall. So back in those days, Wynwood was a completely different place. Like I remember, like we'd be painting at night. And then that wasn't with like lifts or like I was unheard of. We were painting on ladders, scaffolds,
Yeah.
I remember like, again, we're in high schools or like right out of high school. Some of us were definitely in high school at the time while we're still doing it.
Still.
So we'd have to like borrow our parents' cars to come out here. We'd put ladders on it. we'd have to like chain. We would, since it was such a mission to get the ladders out, we would chain the ladders to like the fence they had out there. But since this area was like just like drug ridden at the time, like, it was only a matter of like 2-3 days till the ladders got stolen. Eventually, we had to start stealing ladders because so many of ours got stolen to like complete the project. So I remember like we'd have to go to like construction sites to like try to come up with other ladders to finish the project. That was a feat, man. But like I'm happy we got it done. Yeah, it was.
I mean, this wall had one of the longest run in Wynwood.
Yeah, it ran for
really ran for years and years and years and years.
Yeah, that was 3i, A-hole. Who else was on that? Relax, Stress, Combined, Guns. There's a handful of people on that wall, man, and it was definitely a group effort because there was a lot of people that worked on that wall whose names weren't on there, but they helped in one way or another, like whether it was trying to help us get like ladders or paint or because that was a project that was funded by ourselves as well, as kids. So yeah, that was a lot of experience with that one, I remember painting at night. All we heard was like gunshots throughout the night. It was very different.
Yes, Wynwood was not the safest neighborhood at the time. Things have changed quite a lot.
Right? Yeah. This is a long conversation. You know what's really cool about that wall as well? If you drive down 95 through that patch, that's the only area that has trees planted in front of it. So, from my understanding, the city had an issue with that mural being up because they associated graffiti with negative things, right? So graffiti wasn't something like now that it's more accepted. It was just looked at as like a bad neighborhood if there's graffiti in it. So the city started fining the Margulies for every day that mural was up. He ended up taking them to court and saying that was part of his art collection. And large part because of that mural, there's the amount of like graffiti that we have or murals that we have up in this area. So it's kind of unfortunate that graffiti was kind of like what opened up the doors for all the murals in this area. But a lot of the graffiti has been pushed out, and a lot of the locals have been pushed out by people that are more, I guess, appreciative of like the mural work, that it's unassociated to graffiti. But this neighborhood would not be what it is without graffiti. Like we're the ones that like ran the risks, put them like, obviously it was developers that put the money, but as far as like bringing the money in, like to fund the murals, we weren't getting paid for any of those murals. Those were kids, just putting their money together to express themselves as however they could, You
would go to Home Depot and get as much paint as you can at the time because that was the only place you could get some paint probably. Yeah. I guess there were some paint stores, but more expensive.
Oh no, I mean
there was already not much.
No, there was other paint stores. There was a handful of writers out here that were already selling that's the other thing, man. Like the big corporations have put a lot of like the writers who like started bringing those paint brands out here. They weren't able to expand, and then they were just bought out by like larger people. But I remember like Sinner and Cure were some of the first people that I saw having Montana in Miami. And we used to go to them to like buy the paint,
Oh, Montana was already around. So we're talking about what year? Early 2000?
I remember buying paint from them in like very early 2000s. Yeah, maybe Cure, maybe even in like the 90s.
Oh, even the 90s. Yeah. Montana was already around.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I got to learn. I got to do a little more research.
Right.
I didn't think this was already in the game.
Yeah, Spanish Montana was around.
Oh, what is November 18th?
Oh, DISEM? Yeah, man. That was a beautiful thing.
Yes. My good friend Susanna Baker put that program together for the Murals for Humanity. And so November 18th is the DISEM day in Miami.
Right, yeah. That was a huge honor and very unexpected. Who would have thought that after all, the trajectory that would have came to be, but it's a beautiful thing.
Graffiti is work, and it's beautiful. The illegal aspect of it is also something part of the story, but I mean, there's so many books, so many people have been writing and taking photos of it that it's very important to and it's well recognized now worldwide. And you do also some canvas work, some artwork on the side. You just don't do graffiti.
Well, I mean, even like the murals,
Yeah.
I wouldn't consider the murals like graffiti. There's elements of that, and when I do graffiti, it's very obvious that it's graffiti. But the canvas work is just that, I've always kind of like done canvases here and there, but it's just I think a natural transition. It's to start leaning more into that direction. I always told myself that like I was gonna try to paint as much as possible, like before I had like a family and all that. And now, I had a kid, so
Yes.
now I don't plan on stopping my productivity as far as like the street work and the public artworks.
I don't think.
But I do think that now there's a time where like I can't spend as much time out, for while
Yeah.
I want to be a part of my child's life. So while we're, especially now the early stages, it gives me opportunity to spend time at home and then also express myself through my canvas work and yeah, that's definitely something that I plan on continuing to build on.
Are you one of those artists who actually are making a living out of your work, or no? You do have a job, a regular job.
No, I don't have a 9 to 5. Like, no,
all right.
I haven't had for some time now. But yeah, I make a living off of my work, fully. Also, from a younger age, I've always wanted to be like a full-time artist, right? And coming from an artist family, I understand that it wasn't always like the easiest thing to make happen. If anything, I was always steered away from it by my mother because she saw like her struggles as an artist, and we have the stigma of like a starving artist.
Starving artist,
Yeah.
yes, totally.
So coming from that, like I remember when I went to study in like college, I wanted to study fine art. She was like, don't study fine art, go to like graphic design or something else. I did a few semesters of like graphic design. It's like, no, I'm going to fine art. Because what I would see is that it was a lot of technical learning. And I was like, anybody could learn these programs, but like not every graphic designer could sit down and draw.
Execute.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
or render things. So even if you decide to go in the graphic design route, you have a step up if you could actually render these things by hand, because then you could just learn the programs on your own. And from a younger age, I knew that for me to be an artist for a living, I had to have some sort of like passive income or substantial income that could like help out what I wanted to do. So I opened up a couple of businesses, I think around the age of like 25, and then that was kind of my crutch to be able to do art for a living. But I would say the majority of my income now definitely comes in from the art.
Especially that you are a father now, so you gotta provide, you gotta bring some food, bring some diapers.
Right, yeah. But man, very blessed in that aspect, so can't complain.
How old is he now? A few months.
2 months, man.
2 months.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a brand new thing.
Yeah.
Brand new thing. Well, so congratulations on that.
Thank you,
Definitely.
brother.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that time, DISEM. I mean, really, I appreciate, I admire your work.
Thanks for having me, man.
No,
This has
you-
been a very pleasant conversation.
Yeah.
I thought we were just getting started, man. We could go for like another 30 minutes.
Well,
For me to feel that way when I'm super uncomfortable
Yeah.
with microphones and cameras means that you're doing a great job, man. So this is a great experience. Appreciate
Yeah,
you
that's
having
why
me
I
here.
figure, okay, we're going to try to keep the podcast within 30 minutes. I mean, the attention span of most people, when they're driving, they listen to 10, 15 minutes. I don't even know if anybody has a chance to listen to the whole thing, but hopefully. DISEM, thank you so much again for your time and for being part of this podcast. This is definitely one more for the book.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much again.
Appreciate it,
All
man.
right.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your day and your family and that beautiful South Florida weather.
Will do, man.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much, DISEM, for repping Miami with your art. Please follow and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. We are proud to be broadcasting from Jolt Radio Miami. Shout out to John and our sound technician, Rafa. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode of Write Your Narrative, a South Florida Sweetheart podcast.